Corn is in that field over yonder. And really there's nothing to see until it's harvestable, and that won't be until next week. So I planned that timing really well. But I did pull some interesting ears for y'all. We have blacklight and pheromone traps scattered across the state. So we've got pheromone traps that we're getting data from Whaleyville, from Salisbury, Delmar, up to Dover. Our trapping network so far has been fairly low this year. We did have a nice peak of moth activity back at the very beginning of June, which is typical. Behind you is some plastic ground. We had a sweet corn trial there, myself and Dr. Mark Van Gessel. And for the first time, I got 4th of July sweet corn on station with worms, and it was great. Lots of data. I haven't looked at it yet. I can't do these trials without the support of all of my crew members, because it takes a lot of people and a lot of time to go through all the ears. Like I said, we've had a fairly unusually low trap count so far, but I just got the trap counts about 10 minutes ago. They are peaking really nicely in Laurel and in Concord. They're coming up across the state in general. So right now, I think a lot of folks should be on a 3-day spray schedule, maybe even a 2-day spray schedule, depending on what you're going out with. Our best program for sweet corn is going to be a besiege or an elevest up front early in the silking period. And then at the end of the spray program, we run out of how much besiege and elevest we can use. For that reason, I do not like to use those products against fall armyworm. Fall armyworm is kind of a sporadic issue. They do show up. It's one of those pests that, yes, the diamides work well. Yes, besiege will take them out, but I want to save all that besiege for silk protection. If you look at the labels, there's restrictions on how much active ingredient we can put out. For fall armyworm, I like to recommend lanate if the plants are pushing tassel like this, or if they're really small plants and those worms can't complete their development in one plant, they'll come out, they'll move to a neighboring plant and feed on that one. Otherwise, Evolent and Intrepid Edge do a really good job. Ryman does a very good job on fall armyworm, and that saves our good earworm materials for silking. Let's see here. Yeah, I guess we can talk about all that sweet corn over there. So we've got probably 2 acres of sweet corn on station this year. Some of it has a lot of different traps around it. We're evaluating spray timing intervals, depending on trap counts on BT and non-BT sweet corn. We've got sentinel plots over there looking for BT resistance. This here is a remedy. This is a attribute 2 sweet corn. This is a single row, so we don't have perfect pollination here. It's not ready to pick yet, but there's no worms in it. It's a nice tasty ear when it is ready, where you can still floss between these. One thing I want to point out about BT sweet corn, though, the attribute 2 and the attribute plus is worm proof. All of the other BT sweet corns, the attributes and the performance series, is no longer worm proof. Treat those the same as you would treat a conventional sweet corn. The other thing about BT sweet corn, it will not pick up stink bug pressure. So if you look closely on these kernels, you'll see kernels that have been dented in. They look bruised. That's stink bug damage. And they do not pick up sap beetle. Sap beetle in general is going to be worse following worm damage, so you should see less sap beetle damage. But you may, if you see sap beetle starting to work on the silks, you may want to include an insecticide on that. But the nice thing about the attribute 2s is you can keep it worm free and not spray it 6 times. This year has a little bit of stink bug damage on some of the kernels too, so I'll pass that. Oh, I guess there's one ear going around. Now there's two. Compare that with our non-BT, which, not that one. This one right here. Not sprayed. And it's like magic. The folks in the Middle Ages were onto something when they thought of spontaneous generation. This is why I like sweet corn. Sweet corn is one of the only crops that we grow on Delmarva in which insects drive a lot of the pest management input costs. Watermelons is all diseases, and a cocktail of diseases, and a cocktail of fungicides every week. But sweet corn is all insecticides. Makes me feel special. And it's tasty. Yeah, good stuff. Now, if we could somehow convince the store manager at Walmart and the person that is the average person buying sweet corn that BT sweet corn is good for you, it would go a long way towards pest management. Unfortunately, a lot of the consumers are worried that BT is going to give them 6 toes and 2 heads and all sorts of other maladies, rheumatoid arthritis and gallstones and whatnot. But it does save a lot of insecticide application. Part of the reason we have so much sweet corn over there, those are all spray trials. We're also looking at how irrigation or rain impacts product performance. So in the far corner of that field, if you notice that there are irrigation risers, we're spraying half of that field with a pyrethroid, and we're spraying part of that field with besiege. About an hour to 2 hours after that application, we turn those risers on. We dump about 1/3 of an inch of water on top of that sweet corn, and then we turn those off, and then we spray the other half of the field with the same products, looking to see if efficacy changes based on, let's say a pop-up thunderstorm like that. I did this 2 years ago, and there was a difference. 2 years ago, there was an 11-point difference between irrigation and non-irrigation, but I couldn't tell you if it was across the board with besiege or pyrethroid or both. Because what I did in that trial is I sprayed besiege, and then I came back to pyrethroid, and then sprayed besiege, came back to pyrethroid, and the other plot was just a straight pyrethroid application. So it's not quite apples to apples. So we're repeating this. Earworms, as I'm sure many of you all know, are partially resistant to pyrethroids. Over the years, I've tested all the pyrethroids individually. There are efficacy differences among them. Lambda-Cy is about the least effective of the pyrethroids. When you apply it by itself, pyrethroid has been a very good pyrethroid for me, applied by itself. Brigade or bifenthrin is somewhere in between. I do not recommend using any of those materials by themselves because we're talking the difference of 20% clean ears versus maybe 40% clean ears. Is that going to cut the mustard? No. Our other products, we've got Besiege, we have Elevest. I like Elevest a little bit better because it's got bifenthrin in it. Statistically, they don't separate. Those two products do not separate statistically, but the Elevest plots consistently have a couple of percentage points better in terms of clean ears. One thing that is a bit unusual this year is we've got a lot of corn leaf aphid activity. I have never gotten corn leaf aphids here on the research station until this year, and it's really fun. Nobody wants to pick an ear or sell an ear that it has this many aphids on it. So I'll just pass that along. This is something that we noticed when the plants were pushing tassel before the aphids got onto those flag leaves and the husk leaves. We saw a lot of aphid pressure in that tassel. If you look at the tassel, it's kind of a blackish green at the very tip from all the aphids. The field that sweet corn came out of also had some late fall armyworm also getting pushed out with the tassel, and that is a perfect field for a pre-silk lanate application to try to clean that up. Other materials to consider if you have aphids showing up on those husk leaves and on the tassel like that: Savanto, Transform. I don't know if Safina is labeled offhand. I'll have to double check. And Assail. Assail does have sap beetle activity. None of those products have earworm activity, and Savanto and Transform are one-trick ponies. They're very good on aphids, and that's the only thing they'll kill. They also all have fairly long pre-harvest intervals, so their pre-harvest is 7 days. That ear is about 10 days from harvest, so we could still try to clean it up, but I don't want to. I want to grade my plot for aphid damage for the first time in my short career here. We did spray some plots with lanate. We sprayed some plots with Assail and Savanto. So we'll go in and grade plots for aphid abundance and presence on the ears, while we grade other plots for earworm damage. And just for show, I brought you all a lovely head of Swiss cheese. This is what happens when you don't spray cabbage for anything. We've got a very healthy population of cross-striped worms, which are absolutely devastating on cabbage. And then our usual suspects: imported cabbage worm. There's a smattering of diamondback. There's a lot of parasitoids and parasitoid activity. These little white puffballs here. That used to be an imported cabbage worm that a parasitoid laid a single egg in. That egg divided and divided and divided and divided, and then killed the caterpillar. And now there's going to be 9 wasps there. So the parasitoid complex and the natural enemy complex can put a nice hurting on our worms if we keep them around and combine products that have a narrow spectrum of activity but are very good on worms into the spray program. Preserve those natural enemies, and so we get double duty on our worm pest.